Hey there, guys, and welcome to the Robidoux live stream here on July 24th, 2020. Thanks so much for anyone who joined us yesterday in our live stream with Dr. John Tapia. That presentation was excellent. We greatly enjoyed having him here today, or here to show us that presentation. And today we're going to have another special conversation today about someone kind of important to St. Joe local history. As you know, these live streams and our reading on Wednesday is part of St. Joe Local History Week, which is run by the St. Joseph Public Library. We do want to thank them so much for involving us with this week. And if you do want to go back and watch that live stream from yesterday, we do have it archived on the Facebook here as a video. It's a great presentation, like I said, with a lot of really interesting information about the dig that was done here for the archaeological dig back in the 1970s. So today, to start off, we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on here at the Row. As you know, we are open for visitors, and we've had a few visitors come in here and there each day. So we definitely do want to include some people coming in and have you guys come by and see the great exhibits that we have. We do have some, like I said, some really cool exhibits. The exhibit on the buildings that built St. Joe is kind of on its way, not necessarily gone yet, but if you want to see it, definitely do come by and see that and learn a little bit about uh, the livestock exchange, the Cracker House, and the Robidoux Row. Along with that, we do have the people of the trail, the voices of the trail, with some really cool stories of people who came through St. Joseph and by St. Joseph during the trails era of St. Joseph when we were at our peak of people coming through here. Of course, as always, our friends over at Cat Designs do still have some great items here. Some of our items that we do have are rings and necklaces that they've brought over, and along with some great paintings. And they also recently brought over some amazing items from St. Joe history, including a plate, some photographs, and some really cool blankets or throws. So if you're interested in any of those, definitely do come by the Row and check those out. They're really nice looking. As well, right now, Cat Designs is running a special that if you become a member of the Robidoux Row Museum and the St. Joe Historical Society during the month of July, and you still have a few days to pull this off, you do get 10% off your entire order from anything from Cat Designs. Like I said, there's some great stuff from them. And then you also get the benefit of being a member here at the Row, and being able to go to all the great events that we have, along with all of the amazing exhibits, being able to get in free and seeing those, and getting early access to them when we roll out some new exhibits. So today we are going to talk about Joseph Robidoux. Obviously, he's the most important Robidoux to the history of St. Joseph, or one of. With a couple in the next few weeks, we're going to talk a little bit about some of his sons, as well as some of his brothers, and some of them also are very important to St. Joe history, especially ones like Jules, Felix, and Edmund. So this week, like I said, we are going to talk about Joseph Robidoux. So Joseph Robidoux was born in 1783 in St. Louis. He grew up in St. Louis and helped his father around the businesses there in St. Louis. Now, at the age of 16, he did start traveling as a fur trader. He worked for his father in the fur industry. His father was highly connected to Astor and the Coutois family at the time. And so Joseph started traveling up and down the Mississippi, working for his father as young as the age of 16. He did first see the Black Snake Hills, which now is where St. Joseph is, in 1799. We do know that he actually spoke about some of the area, and we know that he stopped here because of different stories that came passed down from the tribes that were from here. Now, Joseph continued to do fur trading for much of his youth. In about a couple years after, when he was about 18, he did get married to his first wife, Eugenia, and they did have two children. His daughter from that marriage did pass away as a child, like about a month after she was born. But his son, who later became known as Joseph, fourth or fifth, depending on how you define the Josephs in the family, did survive and went on to become assist his father in his business later in life. After this, he did start again working along the river, and then a few years after his wife died, he did have a second wife, who was actually an Oto woman, and he had two children with her. Now, this is where in a couple weeks we're going to be talking about Joseph's sons, And two of them are always misconstrued together. Joseph actually did have a son with his Indian wife, whose name was Joseph. And then he also had a daughter whose name was Mary Many Days. Now, Mary Many Days did go on to become very important in the history of our area. She went later in life to marry Mahaska, who was the chief of the Iowa Indians, and their descendants are the current Iowa Indians in White Cloud. After he had done that, around a little bit after that, he did marry his last wife, Angelique, and from Angelique he did have six children, or 6 to 8 children, depending on how you count the children. Some of them did pass away as a child. They ended up having 8 total, but 6 survived. Now Joseph, in about 1821, did found his first trading post here in the Black Snake Hills. He actually founded it right off the river, right by the Black Snake River, and traded with the local tribes through that whole era. Now, in 18 or in when the plat purchase happened in 1833, Joseph did not actually receive any of the land, which has been told. Private people during those trades, but he stayed on the land of the area. And so in 1838, he was actually on the land, and a group of land jumpers came to St. Joseph and wanted to kick him out of his land because he was on the best land in this area, or what became St. Joseph, obviously. And Joseph found out about it. So when they did that, he actually hired some local tribesmen along with what he called bully men. And basically, these men stood guard around his home, around the border of his home. And then when they appeared, the ruffians or the people trying to land jump on him appeared, they were met at the door by Joseph. Now, Joseph asked the leaders of the mob to come in, and he spoke with them and was polite in talking with them, offered them drinks, and talked to them about how he fully knew they were coming. He had heard that they were coming, and that he had prepared by hiring over 100 Indian warriors or Native American warriors and about 20 strongmen to defend his land. When they heard about this, they realized what a nice guy he actually was by telling them that instead of just allowing his men to attack them and hurt them. And so they spent time talking, and he explained how if that had happened, they would be declaring war on not just him, but also the tribes of the area. And so the land jumpers ended up seeing that they were obviously not in a good position, freely decided to exit the situation and moved on to not do that with him, to the point where they actually told him that they would defend him as well, that he would actually be defended by the ruffians that first showed up. They went and got their own land in the area, and they promised to be his militia the next time something happened. Well, about 2 years later, that same thing happened again. The ruffians that were from the first batch showed up, stopped the guys that tried to land jump Joseph, and they moved on. So after that period, Joseph did assist with the founding of St. Joseph. In 1843, the city was platted and brought down to Jefferson City, or St. Louis, and it was submitted, and it became the city of St. Joseph. Now, many people do know that Joseph owned the area that was downtown when the city was platted. It was the only area that he actually owned. What most people do not realize is that Joseph helped build our downtown by giving to the items that were needed to be built in this town. In about 1849, the Catholic Church needed to be built in St. Joseph. And so, in order to assist with it, Joseph gave an entire lot of land to a carpenter to build the church, along with the lands that the Catholic Church was built on, which was a quarter block on the south part of, or along with a quarter block of the south end of Felix Street, to be able to be sold to build the church. So he gave away probably about, at the prices he was paying, you're looking at probably about $500 to $1,000 worth of property so that the Catholic Church could be built in St. Joseph in the downtown area. Along with that, he also knew that we needed a courthouse in St. Joseph. So in 1853, in a space that was originally just covered in shanties, he donated all of the land, which was called Block 48, so the whole block that he owned, and a half block extra to the city to sell and build a courthouse for the city of St. Joseph and the region around here. Along with that, there was also a market house that was built in the same area, all of which ended up being worth about $50,000 worth of land that was later sold to build that. He also was involved in the founding of the first state national bank. He was one of the original signers for that, along with McDonald, Thornton, and Beatty, along with a number of other men, including Frederick Smith and Simeon Kemper. All those men basically helped lead to the initial banking here, which ended up becoming the primary way that the gold rush affected St. Joseph. Because of that bank, much of the gold that went out of San Francisco came through St. Joseph. Along with all of that, Joseph also helped to uh, work on the Hannibal St. Joe Railroad. In 1859, when it was being built, he was one of the main people, along with John Corby, um, and and from the Hannibal region, the father of Samuel Clemens, or Samuel Clemens the First, who most of you guys will know was Mark Twain, all signed off at the courthouse for the General Assembly of the state of Missouri. And then in 1859, when the final golden spike was actually slammed in, Joseph Robidoux was the one that was given the hammer to put the final spike into the Hannibal St. Joe Railroad and created the Hannibal St. Joe Railroad Company. So a lot of those things he did just to assist the city. There's another story that I've read that stated that when the Pony Express wanted to come to St. Joseph, that there was trouble for them to get into St. Joseph. And so he went to the county board or the city board and told them that they should allow the Pony Express to open up. There's no real substantiation for that one, but that is the story we've been told. So, a couple last stories of when he was a little bit older and some hilarious stories about Joseph is before Abraham Lincoln, the Republican Party was not really a thing. As we know, we call it the Party of Lincoln for a reason. Well, in 1860, the Republican Party was just starting up. And then in that election, there were only 410 votes for it here in the area. So in 1856, when the first vote that had a Republican candidate on it was John Fremont for president, there was one voter in the entirety of Buchanan County and St. Joseph that voted for the Republican Party at that point, and that was Joseph Robidoux. At that point, his the ballots were not hidden. You would watch people go and vote, and you know who they voted for because it would say that. And everyone else would not support the Republican Party. It was viewed as not. They were viewed as a party that you could not support. But John Fremont received a vote from Joseph Robidoux because Joseph Robidoux knew him before he was running for president. And so, along with all that, Joseph Robidoux, like I said, was very big on building up the city of St. Joseph. He assisted people with going west with the building of the Robidoux Row, as well as with the Hannibal St. Joe Railroad and all the different things that occurred during that era. He also did attend the original lead off of the actual Pony Express, and we have a story that comes from his granddaughter, who apparently dragged him, as she says, to see the Pony Express start. And then in 1868, he did pass away here at the Robidoux Row. Though when he passed away, he barely had any money. The only land we know that he still owned on the Robidoux Row was worth about $1,500, and that was it, because he had given away so much of his land. Joseph Robidoux had a major impact on this town. Next week, we're going to start talking about a few more of the other impacts that we have from his sons. So that was just a little bit about Joseph Robidoux and his impact on Saint Joseph here. So thank you so much for joining us here today. As I said, do come by and see us here. We are open tomorrow from 10 to 4, as well as next week, Wednesday through Saturday, 10 to 4. So we'd love to see you guys come by, see some of the great exhibits, and come look at some of the stuff that Joseph did have. We have some of his original artifacts still here. So thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next week when we talk a little bit more about Joseph's sons. We'll get into some of his brothers as well in the upcoming weeks. So thanks so much, and you have a great day. Bye.